Good afternoon, all you Yang bangers out there. I know it's the last. I know it's the last talk, the last slot at the last day of the conference, but this is a great topic. We know that what we're doing in this in the current scheme of things is to take advantage of standards-based models, both for network configuration, for service definition, for topological definition and viewing and whatnot. A key component of the OpenDayLight platform is, of course, its ability to handle Yang models and to then generate REST APIs. So we're here to give you a description or a talk on this application that we've built. My name is Chris Metz. I'm here with my colleague, Daniel Malakovsky. He's one of the developers behind this application. It's an application that ships with Deluxe, and the idea is to make it as easy as possible for you, an application developer working with ODL, and by extension, Yang models, to be able to develop applications as quickly as possible with minimum hassle. So we'll set up I guess the environment as it stands today, define a problem statement, right? We don't just do these things for the heck of it. We're trying to solve a particular problem. Take you through some of the architecture, how things are handled. Daniel will be giving us several demonstrations, both of the REST calls that we make down into ODL to bring the Yang models back up and then eventually convert them into a user interface. We'll take you through the actual application itself, and then we'll wrap it up. All right, so as mentioned, Yang, a critical component, I think frankly across the industry, right? It's not just an OpenDaylight kind of thing that we're dealing with right now. We hear a lot about RESTCONF, right? We take Yang models and convert them to REST APIs for all intents and purposes. That is really a component, if you will, of this notion of model-driven software engineering, right? At the end of the day, we've got a model and the output is code. A lot of the controller platforms, the orchestration platforms, they're all becoming model-driven. We're building a bunch. We define not only the devices that need to be programmed or configured in the network, but also the higher level services, right? The overlay, the respective, if you will, service chains that might be stood up inside of a cloud, the remote vehicles that maybe come in through a network to talk to elements within the cloud. All of these things within this larger NFV and SDN environment, they're all taking advantage of models. And of course, there's many across the industry. I'm sure there's multiple vendors here today. They're using Yang models in their implementations. Lots happening. Is this a pointer right here? Okay, well, I guess on the right, we've got the growth clearly in the number of Yang models defined in various IETF drafts and eventually RFCs. So the growth is there. It's definitely trending upwards. Obviously, we see between the different releases of OpenDaylight a growth in the number of Yang models. It's here to stay, right? SNMP MIBs, that's over. We're done with that. It's a very powerful tool. You can do quite a few number of conversions, if you will, between different data object formats, and Daniel will take us through some of those as well. Yang tools for app developers. This is clearly not an all-inclusive list or an exhaustive list. These are some of the things that I use, right? I use Sublime, and there's this plugin that helps you present Yang models in a reasonable, easy-to-read format, although Yang, of course, is human-readable. If we can have our text editors do a better job of presenting that, that's a good thing. Pyang is a tool that's used for validation, as well as presenting in a number of different formats Yang models, and that also, obviously helps us understand how these things are structured and what they're trying to define. And then there's some different plugins. There's one for Eclipse as well. There's a whole bunch of Yang tools. We need more, no doubt about it. This is a critical component in networking, in service orchestration, network management, configuration, so on and so forth. I got a team of developers that hack on apps that run on top of the different controller and orchestration platforms. We have a lot of great skills. This is definitely what you need if you're going to be building new applications. Note the absence of networking, right? We are not looking for network people anymore. We've got plenty of those at Cisco. We've got plenty, frankly, across the industry. It is about hacking code for applications. And this is not obviously an exhaustive list of the skills that you need, but this is what we are heavily seeking. And please hand me your business cards after this talk. But anyway, those folks building apps in this environment obviously have to have this level of skills, and they may also need to understand what these Yang models are. What do they define? How are they structured? Do we need to improve on them as some of the tools that we author, right? Some of the tools that we use to author Yang models, right, Daniel? I guess there's a level of skill to be able to define, edit, and then validate Yang models. Any comments there?
I don't think so, but as you said, we are using YANGUI.
Right.
And there are other people that are using some plugin to Eclipse
right.
or something like
well,
that.
I think was, I guess Jan Medved was observing the other day, right, that he uses this particular application to get a feel as to whether the Yang model that he is authoring, looks good. Does it have reasonable and correct documentation? Does it have sort of the right flow or structure in terms of its hierarchy? So we'll get into this, and it goes back to my point, we need more tools to help developers work with, understand, and incorporate directly or indirectly Yang into their applications. All right, so here's the problem statement, right? Most of the tools out there today are really confined to either creating, editing, or doing some sort of validation. I would posit that ODL application developers, any app developer in this day and age, even if they're doing service orchestration, they will need to work with not only Yang models, but also some of the other programming skills. And mainly when they're going to be interacting with some of these orchestration or controller platforms, obviously REST is a key component. So what we need is a model-driven software engineering approach for application development in this environment. So we want to simplify model validation, right? I don't want to be typing in from a command line pyang dot blah, 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 something, and have it spit out a bunch of errors. I want something that's very straightforward in terms of validating what the model is. We tried to load some models this afternoon, right? Some of the open config BGP models into ODL, and we got some errors. So we determined, I think, that there might be some problems with these Yang models. So that's important. We also want to simplify the REST API exposure. It's all about REST, right? All the code that we write at the end of the day is likely going to make some sort of REST call to something out there, ask it for information, get the response back, or push or post something into the network. Postman does a nice job of sort of organizing and making it easy to call up and test these REST APIs. We want something that's more closely aligned with Yang, the REST APIs that are derived from the Yang models. And here, we also want to include a dynamically generated web user interface, forms. So we have RESTCONF. I would suggest that this is UIConf or WebConf, right? And we'll show you how that works. And I've worked with a bunch of folks on our team, and there's always this, what does Yang mean, or what's the RESTCONF, what are we doing over here? So anything that we can do to sort of simplify the linkage between these Yang models over here that define what we want to configure on a vehicle or the service that we want to orchestrate, and our controller or application development platform, right? One could argue that ODL is an application development platform. The linkage between those two so that we can hack code and get apps built much faster. So Daniel will take you through this momentarily, but where it fits within the ODL Deluxe environment, we've got a number of different applications. Deluxe is the UI framework that one could use to build apps to have sort of the common look and feel, and that's what the Yang UI is. This is sort of the front-end dashboard. These are the models right here. Daniel will take you through that, but net, it's an application on top of ODL. Very straightforward to install and implement. Well, it comes out of the box raring to go for the most part. So in summary, application ideas to sort of simplify and make it easier for app developers in this environment. The key thing here is that it doesn't just, we don't just display the generated RESTCONF URLs. We generate also UI forms, leveraging the Deluxe UI framework. So there's the Deluxe components that we're taking advantage of, Angular and that kind of thing. And as you'll see, it's not a production-ready, hey, Mr. Customer, look at this. This is an easy-to-use interface. This is really designed, I think, for app developers. So we'll take you through some of these. You'll see some similarities, if you will, between some of the things that this tool does and Postman. Just sort of summarizing where these Yang models are and their flow through ODL, the Yang tools component, into RESTCONF, and then eventually ending up in the Yang UI application. Again, it's an application, not a plug-in into OpenDayLight application. So we start here with the Yang models. They're loaded into ODL. We've got some processing there in the MD SAL, and again, we've got the application sitting on top of all of the standard RESTCONF APIs that are generated by ODL. So at a high level, the components, we've got, and in my mind, being an apps guy, I've got sort of the front-end user interface. Here is sort of the back-end logic. Daniel, why don't you take us through at a high level some of these functions?
Yeah. The YANGUI application itself is it's just two basic modules. One is the UI itself, which is just generating the form from the data and provides the interaction with the user. And the backend is a YANGUI utils library, which just reads the data from the controller, do some processing. We can talk a little bit in the next slides, and create the data, and the UI is just using the data. There are some components like the YIN JSON conversion. We read the YIN schemas from the controller, converting to the JSON. Yeah, okay.
You're showing here, but any Yang-based application, not necessarily just ODL, right?
So this could maybe go, so you're asking, could we use this with any platform or database containing Yang models to then generate a user interface? And I think this goes back to the question we were talking about.
We are using some processing which is in the Yang tools and MDSAL, so I think we need this data where we are reading from. So if other applications are creating the list of the modules and providing the YIN schemas for the modules, I think it can be done. We can maybe plug into our application.
Hey, let me ask
But I am not the expert of the controller itself, so it's just what we are using to build the data or the UI.
But Daniel, let me ask you this. So if we had a brand new Yang model and we wanted to run it through ODL and then have the Yang UI application retrieve it and then render a UI, how might we go about doing that?
We are using Netconf Test Tool as a device simulator. So we can point the Netconf Test Tool to folder where the Yangs are and just spawn the device and read it from the Yang UI. Point to the exact node. It's basically in a Netconf topology. And to the node we spawned before. Maybe we can go through this in the demo very quick.
And that's how we've done it with a couple of, we've got these new entities in the network. We'd like to program them, through ODL, and to sort of test and validate what we can do with this new networking entity. We set them up in the Netconf Test Tools and simulated a device defined by this new Yang model.
Yeah. Okay. Another component is JSON UI linkage. It's just a bunch of really it's a simplified this bunch of other components, and those JavaScript objects we created here from the in schema, we just apply some other things like descriptions from the Yang modules, validations and stuff, and this stuff with this set of objects we created, we send to the YANGUI application itself, and YANGUI just renders these objects into HTML elements and displays them in some way. Okay. This is the first request from the YANGUI application. When we start the YANGUI application, the first request to the controller is this one. I don't know if you see this. It's the RESTCONF modules. We get the data from there, and I have it right here in the Postman.
Yeah. So the two slides here, how do you get the Yang modules out of ODL? So that's what we were trying to sort of illustrate in those two slides with an abbreviation. But now, Daniel, you'll take us through the actual calls.
Yeah, this is just a simple get. I don't know if you see this. Is it better? Yep. Okay. It's just the URL of the controller. I have it on a local host. Just RESTCONF modules call, and we have a list of modules which are already in the controller. So we process one by one module and load them, loading their schemas. This is the call for the schema. So every one module, this is the call. I'm now here. Here is the OpenDayLight inventory. This is the name of the module, the revision, and schema. We have the schema in XML. It's an in format, and this format is providing the controller itself. So this is the basic of our processing or of our application.
So, sorry, yeah, please go ahead.
Is it available in JSON as well, or only as
Sorry?
Is it available in JSON as well?
I think only in. Maybe it was some discussion about what we use, but I think XML is good for everybody.
We would probably want that, right? Because this XML stuff, just sort of hard to parse in the mind.
Okay, this is the same slide with the example of the schema, and this is the whole processing. It's too small, maybe too small, but this is a whole process of the YANGUI application starting. So we just need to get all those data from the controller, mangle them in some way, and display the list of the APIs, and this is the start. So from top to bottom, YANGUI applications ask YANGUI utils, give me data. YANGUI utils ask the controller, give me the modules, return it, and this is the first processing. For every module we get from the controller, we ask for the for the schema and parse the yin. This is the first processing, creating JavaScript objects from the yin. Every one module we process in the module connector, which is all these stuffs, YANGUI utils, in parser, module connector, and API builder are just factories in the YANGUI utils. And for each module, we apply references like groupings, apply augments, and when we have all this data, we send them to the API builder and build the whole path to the exact node.
Yeah, so I was going to say that all the components on top are defined or at least spelled out in the awesome OpenDaylight documentation in YANGUI UI.
Yeah, of course.
This is probably the first time this has, ever been sequenced out because.
Yeah. But I just took note in this ODL summit to provide better documentation for all these and for the methods they are in the YANGUI utils, because I will say it in the back. We are preparing something.
I mean, yeah, you got to fling this up to the wiki, seriously.
Okay.
I mean, right now, do we have time? Can you just post it?
At the end, we have data nodes with APIs, and this is where the application is started. Okay, YANGUI. What we are using, how we are using the YANGUI, or I can tell about it because we did the YANGUI applications, but also we are creating other applications for other projects, and YANGUI is helping us as UI developers in that way that if we don't have some kind of collection, Postman collections to test or fill the controller with the data, we need to read back and do it in other applications. We are using the YANGUI to fill the data to the controller, and we just need the Postman collections from developer of the ODL applications.
Hey, I was going to say okay, so in all honesty, right, I guess the initial traction has been with the Yang heavy folks. So the UI team that we have, they're starting to work with this tool. It's largely, to this point in time, been sort of a Postman kind of thing, and they've been sort of isolated, if you will, from the intricacies of Yang. But we definitely foresee the folks, not the advanced folks like yourself, Daniel, but some of the, the sort of the general purpose UI programmers starting to use this tool, both for helping them understand what the model is, what fields they might want to envision, displaying or rendering, and then of course the API component as well.
Yeah, also it's helpful for skilled Yang modelers. If they want to see if the Yang model is like they intend, like was their requirement, if it's correct, if they have all those things like description there and validations and constraints and all this stuff. YANGUI renders the UI, and you will see all the tree there, and you will see if it's like you want it to be. And for example, you can the basic the intent was for YANGUI when the developers are building their applications, and everybody was going with the laptops, and everybody is just showing their their Postman collections and the requests they are sending and getting from the controller. Now you have UI for that, so you see it in the normal way, not just the text in the JSON or in the XML. It's better when and UI is there for when you just change the model. The UI generates the YANGUI generates the form on the new version of this, so you just don't need to change anything. in the UI. And when you don't have the UI for your ODL applications, you just can use this our application for that.
Hey, so Daniel, you did a lot of the UI work for group-based policy. You were telling me the other day that you were using YANGUI as you were developing.
Yeah, as I said,
GDP,
we are using it to feed the controller if you don't have the data from the developers. So it's, or we don't have a complete data, but we need to create the forms and all this stuff. And we just don't need to hack the Yang models itself, which are in the controller. We just use the Yang UI and develop the application based on this. Okay, we can see demo. I have started application here, but when this is the whole processing. We are loading right now these modules, and I can zoom it, I think. Sorry? Yeah. I have started Karaf and installed the ODL Deluxe all features.
Yeah, we have a slide giving you the steps.
And
to
here
do
is the
this.
URL, so you have already installed it. Okay, here is the list of the APIs which are loaded in the controller. Down there will be the form. I can show it in the at the OpenDayLight inventory API. We have two storages, operational config, and we have, for example, list of nodes. There are some nodes already in the controller. I did it before, so this is the path to this is the API. The method which are provided to this API. When it's in the config, we have these 4 methods. When it's in the operational, we can only read the data. So I just read the data from the controller, and as you see, this is the list of the nodes in the inventory, and we have 1, 2, 3, 4 more stuff. This component is the list, and it acts like a tab control. And you can click between the nodes. You are seeing here in the button the ID of the node. And here is what it's underneath. So we have other stuff, and you can click through there. We are also displaying the descriptions from the Yang model itself. So if modelers put them there, we are displaying them. We are also showing the augmentations, what is augmented, and you have some buttons here. You can add another nodes, but we have a lot of here. I need to delete them. Okay, this is like we are adding stuff there. We can.
And so I just back to the documentation, because we do, let's be honest, we do a lousy job of that. So this, I think, incents the Yang modeler to, try and describe, what these particular components are. And that helps the developer, that helps other Yang modelers, and I think that's a good thing.
Yeah. Also, we are providing some, if there are validations or the constraints in the model itself, we are using them and using them in the UI. I think in the network topology, it will be good to show. So this is the container, network topology list. And I can add some topology, like demo topology. This is the ID of it. And we have another containers here. And I think we can find something interesting. Yeah, These are examples of the types in the models. Of we have choice here, for example, union and other stuff. And this is the example of validation. We have a port which must be integer, and if we write there string, just shout value must be positive number. So the validation, if it's already in the model, we are exposing it and using to validate before sending to the controller. Okay. Now we can send something to the controller itself. We change the method from get to put and add some nodes. Very simple. Before actual sending to the controller, we can preview what we are sending there. So this is the API or URL where we are sending the data. This is the payload. You can use this for generating the data for other people. So if you are using the Postman collections or Postman itself, you just write down the form some examples, hit the preview, copy, paste it to the Postman, send to other people. Parameters ID and all this stuff, what's available in the Postman. Okay, so now we have a very simple nodes, node 1, node 2, and we can send it to the controller. And they are there. If I click back 2 nodes, I just send it. You have we are learning from the Postman, so we are using like a history of the previous calls. So this is everything I sent in this demo. You see the method, URL. If it succeeded, it failed, you see the data which you sent or received from the controller or from the call. You can run them or fill them again to the form. So it's just like Postman. The other thing was we want to save the request for later or for other people. So you can store these requests in the collection. So for example, this one, I can save into the collection, name it, and if there is some collection, just pick it or create new. And here in the collections, you have your request for use in the later in next time you will be. Okay.
Yeah, I was going to say, obviously things like this already done with Postman, but I think the advantage here is that this thing is an app running right on top of ODL, and the URLs are RESTCONF, and
Yeah.
again, derived from the Yang model. So it's sort of a tightly coupled, integrated Postman Plus
Yeah.
specific to ODL.
The main benefit from this is just the form itself. So you can just see you are seeing how the model is, how the nodes of the model are nested. If it's like you intended to when you build the model, or you can validate it and test your applications with the YANGUI. The newest feature, one thing, you can also save the collection and send it to other people. It's really easy. Just export this in a JSON format and import it back. And the newest feature is parameters. So here I have 4 parameters. It's like variables which can be used in the JSON we are sending. So for example, here I have this call where I send those 2 nodes. So I can edit the data and add those parameters. We choose this this because I think it's not used in the Yang itself, so it's the how we presenting the parameters. Okay, you save the data. You will see we have two variables or parameters, and we can run it to the controller. And this is the result. We send the node 1, 2, 3, node 4, 5, 6, which is the values for these variables, just like in Postman. Yeah. So this is really basics of the YANGUI application, and I think somebody asked about this, and we talked about this Netconf Test Tool. So I can start the Netconf Test Tool here, and with this command I can show you.
Have people played with Netconf Test Tool at all?
Netconf Test Tool is just a simulator for the device, and this is the command how you run it, and the main the parameter schemas directory we are pointing to the folder where we have some Yang models prepared, and we have there one really simple test Yang. So you need to run the Netconf Test Tool itself. It reads the Yang models from the directory.
Hey, so while you're doing that, Daniel, so summarizing several sort of simulated test environments for ODL. You have Netconf Test Tools, right, which is sort of, you load up Yang models and you can validate your Yang models and program against them. You've got Mininet, right, if you've got a sort of an open flow network and you want to deal with that. Right. Cisco, and I'm assuming others out there in the industry, they have sort of virtual network topology environments. So if you got an IP MPLS network, we have this thing called Viral. So I think ODL in isolation, yeah, you can do some things, but obviously you want to, be able to program against something, whether it's a network or a simulated Netconf device.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, now we have started the Netconf with some devices, but we need to spawn device and to show it in the topology. So this is the call we need to send to controller and spawn the device. I have named it demo device and send it to the controller. All these examples are from wiki page of Netconf Test Tool. So they're going to the network topology, operational.
So you're saying what you just showed there is documented somewhere?
Yeah, of course. In the, as I said, the wiki page of Netconf Test Tool, we are just added new device to the topology.
I was sort of being facetious there, Daniel.
Okay. We need to.
I'm sorry. Do we have a question?
Sorry.
Where can we find Netconf Test Tools?
I think it's a part of the Netconf project in the controller. So when you cloned from the Git repository controller, Netconf Test Tool is there. Or the Netconf project. I don't know if is Netconf project in the ODL. Okay, there or in the Netconf. Okay, you need to point the application to the specific place. So we need to point it to the topology. Topology is called topology Netconf. And to the specific node we created, I think it was demo device. And then show mount point. And we completely change the context of the application. So we forget about everything we had, about the models we loaded before, and we now have just the demo device, and the very simple Yang module itself. And we can
So-
use it like it was before.
Yeah, so a practical application would be you have some Yang models for your particular forwarding device, router or switch, and if they're augmentations, using this, you can mount them, and then you can program
Just like
via RESTCONF
yeah.
APIs against those vendor-specific
Yeah.
models.
We use it with the XR VR models, and it works well.
Sorry, you had a question?
It's in the controller, yeah. Okay, so the Netconf Test Tool is in the controller. Thank you very much. Okay, and now you can use it as.
Oh,
as
yeah,
I showed
what
before.
else?
The question is, do you need to load the features in order to see the Yang, like loading the feature? For instance, the OBS3 project.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, of course. Now we have on just clean controller with deluxe all features installed, nothing else. So if you want something else like group-based policy, you need to have installed.
Yeah, and that's an easy list, right? The feature colon list, I mean, it goes on forever. But yeah, that's the case, right? In fact, I loaded the BGP ones earlier today, right? So,
Yeah.
yep.
But we had a problem because the models were broken. So.
These were the ones that work, not the new ones.
Yeah. Okay. We have we had a different context. So all those calls we have before, they are not accessible right now. So we are just displaying this. If you have a lot of features installed and have a lot of requests in the history, after removing these features, the requests are there, but they are notified that they are not available. Okay. So this was the really basic demo how to use the Yang UI. Okay, yeah. It's just different data stores in the controller. Operational is for, as I know, is for the configuration we want to be installed, and the configuration is what we need to be, or our intent, how the whole the controller or the devices must be configured, and operational is the actual state of the network, for example. So it's different. Configuration is the intent, and the operational is the actual state.
Yeah, so maybe net it out. So operational is like stats and things that I see from the network, and configuration is what I want to push and configure into the network.
Yeah.
Yes.
I don't know, maybe it's not the right question to you guys, but so the operational and config, right? So let's say I do a configuration and it's invalid. So how do I know that? So when I do the configuration, it won't tell me anything, right? It will just push it to the data store, everything is stored there.
Yeah.
How do I know I did a mistake? Right? The way the API call was made, maybe it's not valid, it refers to an invalid switch or something like that.
I think this is not a question for us, but maybe.
Yeah.
I asked this question in the OpenFlow plugin session, and so for example, you can install a flow into config, and it might fail, and you don't know.
Yeah.
So you have to pull operational.
But if I'm building a tool which kind of does this automatically, right? So when I make a REST call, it says it's successful, but actually it's not.
It's not. So if it's an OpenDayLight application, then you get a notification that it failed. But if you're just using RESTCONF, then you'll need to make the request to config, and then you'll need to
Basically
pull
wait,
operational and say, did this work? Did this work?
and we have to wait till the operational actually reflects what happened.
Right, is that there is actually a notification for the rest of it. You can register for a stream that I want to get a notification when something happened with this feature. Send, I think
Is that there today, Martin? Yeah. Okay.
Fine. So this was the demo, and I said we are preparing something with the Yang UI itself, but you know, YANGUI creates some simple user interface, and our intent is to use it as a framework to application development in the future. So we have the infrastructure how to read the modules from the controller, and we have all the processing. So we try to use it as a framework. Like we have some URL, and we will tell the framework just render from this API form for the adding the nodes and put it in the application. And I hope YANGUI framework will just do this for you, and you don't need to hard code
maybe like some templates or wizards or something like that, just to maybe further
just the tool
automate that process.
Just the tool to creating the application based on this framework. But it will be in the future, I hope. But it will be really helpful for rapid application development.
Indeed, yeah.
Sorry? No. No. Mm-hmm. Good point. I'll take the note.
Yeah, indeed. That's what you were maybe trying to allude to. But yeah, we certainly want to take advantage of some of those more advanced web development tools.
Yeah,
and,
but it's just we are discussing about it. But it will be really good feature to the next releases, I hope.
Right. So I know we're getting close to the end of the talk here. If you have any questions, please come see us afterwards. But clearly, Yang trending upwards big time. Apps are going to use it directly and indirectly. We definitely need more tools. I keep harping on that, but what we have today I think is insufficient, and this gives us, I think, a better capability when we're dealing with app development using Yangs that are part of the ODL environment. And any tool that can make it easier for the developer will save time. You'll get your app hacked quicker. You'll be able to show it to the decision makers and maybe even customers quicker, and you'll be able to get it out the door quicker, probably with a better level of assurance that it's actually going to work and do what it's supposed to do. At the very least, you've got better quality code, right? Because you've broken all the things that probably can happen using Yang UI, and you can take what you've learned and put it into your real code. This is in open source. It's part of its contribution to the ODL community. We're interested in any and all suggestions that you might have. I think the JSON one was good. The one about working with some of the web development frameworks was excellent. But if you have anything else, by all means, let us know, and we'll just hack it up quickly and get it out the door. All right. Thus concludes the ODL Summit. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
That maybe come in through a network to talk to elements within the cloud. All of these things within this larger NFV and SDN environment, they're all taking advantage of models. And of course, there's many across the industry. I'm sure there's multiple vendors here today. They're using Yang models in their implementations. Lots happening. Is this a pointer right here? Okay, well, I guess on the right, we've got the growth clearly in the number of Yang models defined in various IETF drafts and eventually RFCs. So the growth is there. It's definitely trending upwards. Obviously, we see between the different releases of OpenDayLight a growth in the number of Yang models. It's here to stay, right? SNMP MIBs, that's over. We're done with that. It's a very powerful tool. You can do quite a few number of, conversions, if you will, between different data object formats, and Daniel will take us through some of those as well. Yang tools for app developers. This is clearly not an all-inclusive list or an exhaustive list. These are some of the things that I use, right? I use Sublime, and there's this plugin that helps you present Yang models in a reasonable, easy-to-read format, although Yang, of course, is human-readable. If we can have our text editors do a better job of presenting that, that's a good thing. Pyang is a tool that's used for validation, as well as presenting in a number of different formats Yang models, and that also, obviously helps us understand. Good afternoon, all you Yang bangers out there. I know it's the last. I know it's the last talk, the last slot at the last day of the conference, but this is a great topic. We know that what we're doing in this in the current scheme of things is to take advantage of standards-based models, both for network configuration, for service definition, for topological definition, and viewing and whatnot. A key component of the OpenDayLight platform is, of course, its ability to handle Yang models and to then generate REST APIs. So we're here to give you a description or a talk on this application that we've built. My name is Chris Metz. I'm here with my colleague, Daniel Malakovsky. He's one of the developers behind this application. It's an application that ships with Deluxe. As mentioned, Yang, a critical component, I think frankly across the industry, right? It's not just an OpenDaylight kind of thing that we're dealing with right now. We hear a lot about RESTCONF, right? We take Yang models and convert them to REST APIs for all intents and purposes. That is really a component, if you will, of this notion of model-driven software engineering, right? At the end of the day, we've got a model and the output is code. A lot of the controller platforms, the orchestration platforms, they're all becoming model-driven. We're building a bunch. We define not only the devices that need to be programmed or configured in the network, but also the higher level services, right? The overlay, the respective, if you will, service chains that might be stood up inside of a cloud, the remote vehicles. And the idea is to make it as easy as possible for you, an application developer working with ODL, and by extension, Yang models, to be able to develop applications as quickly as possible with minimum hassle. So we'll set up, I guess, the environment as it stands today. Define a problem statement, right? We don't just do these things for the heck of it. We're trying to solve a particular problem. Take you through some of the architecture, how things are handled. Daniel will be giving us several demonstrations, both of the REST calls that we make down into ODL to bring the Yang models back up and then eventually convert them into a user interface. We'll take you through the actual application itself, and then we'll wrap it up. All right, so as